So we're starting from a fresh scene. I'm going to do, yet again, I'm going to start with the just a plane, scale it up to 8 so that it covers the whole thing. I'm going to turn my display to only render. And then what we're going to do this time is we're going to add some geometry to this, more than just like vertices, but like some actual geometry. So I'm going to go to edge mode, add some edge loops to this. Let's do 2, and then we'll bevel those 2 edges. Yeah, there we go. And then I'm going to add another edge loop here and here. Take those 2, bevel them again, and then drop them down like that, like so. And then what we can, I think I want to add just a little bit more geometry to this so that we have more to work with. So let's do another edge loop, bevel. We'll just extrude this time. The reason why I don't usually do the extrude is because I don't like these extra faces on the edge here. So we'll just delete those. And then I'm going to take that and we're going to add even more geometry just so we have more to work with. This works a lot better with more geometry. So now we have a very beveled surface with some interesting shapes going on. You could use this as a floor panel in a game if you want, and it could be, it's got some interesting shapes, so it doesn't have to be super complicated, so don't really worry too much about that. And now we're going to just increase our edge loops so that we can use that vertex, the vertex weighting in all these situations to really to the best of its ability. So now we have enough geometry. I'm actually going to hope this works. I'm going to subdivide it, add the modifier. Let's apply that. Add a subdivision modifier just to give it that much more vertice data. And we're going to do something that's pretty cool. We're going to go to vertex paint again, only this time paint dirty vertex colors, and it'll take a little bit of time to calculate that. You might get some errors like what's going on over here, but what it's done is it's created its own vertex colors by default, like right there, and we'll just hook that up like we did before. New material, get another color mix RGB and another input attribute, and we're gonna use this as we're gonna call it a dirty mask. If I can get the caps light, dirty mask, or grunge mask, you could also call it that, because that's kind of what we're doing. But for this, dirty mask works because that's really, we're going to try and use these dark spots to signify dirty, or like where the grunge or where like material has collected in those crevices inside the mesh. So as like, yeah, anyway, I don't know where I'm going with that little analogy, so just ignore it. Let's see what that looks like real quick. Alright, so we got the same colors. Let's see which one's going to be our dirt, grit, our grime. Probably should connect that. So that looks like it's the opposite of what we really want. So we'll make that dark. And that light, yeah, there we go. So now we're getting the darker areas, and we can further control this by going and adding a color ramp in to the lineup. We can bring the darks up. We can bring the whites in more so that we have just those crevices really dark. And then what I'm going to do is, since I have these 2 colors, what I can do is I'm going to add a texture, an image texture, to the bottom one first, and that's going to be our base texture. And I have a couple of textures that I can choose from. but I'm just going to choose something fairly light but still interesting, and plug it into there. And because this doesn't have any UV coordinates, it's just taking like that first pixel. So let's fix that really quick. Go to orthographic, top view, hit U, and then do project from view bounds, and that will, actually I'll just show you. Create a UV unwrap that takes up the entire space like that. And that, so now we have the texture on there, and we have our those crevices now have that darker shadowing. And what we can do is also, what we're going to do is, just to give it a little bit more realism, I'm going to duplicate the texture node, hook it up to the top one, but this time I'm going to pick a darker, more grungy looking material or texture. And so now it's a little more subtle, but it's still there. You can see that in these crevices it's a little darker, and it kind of holds the it's like dirt has collected. And again, what we can do from here, we can take a color and do, because we have, I'm going to use the RGB curves this time and just bring the curve down a little bit more, and that'll just darken the whole image, but it won't desaturate the colors. And I know you can see right here that because we did a projection view, it's all stretched. I guess if you really wanted to get smart about it, you could just do a normal unwrap, and it shouldn't pull apart the mesh too much because we don't have any sharp angles. But let's give it some time to crunch, because that's a lot of polygons for my not so powerful computer. And hopefully it won't crash and we'll have to start over, but that'll help fix those seams so that they're not stretched nearly as much. Alright, so that is how to get kind of a nice grit inside your mesh.